Good evening. I'd like to call the Findlay City Schools Board of Education meeting to order. Ms. Harrington, can you call the roll?
Mr. Cooper?
Here.
Ms. Iyer?
Here.
Mr. Aldridge?
Here.
Mrs. Russell?
Here.
Dr. Stephen Wilson?
Here.
Stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, moving on to the safety briefing. Like every meeting's out the door and to the left to get out of the building. And then I'm looking for a motion to adopt the proposed agenda.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion on the agenda? Ms. Harrington?
Mrs. Russell?
Aye.
Dr. Stephen Wilson?
Aye.
Mr. Aldridge?
Aye.
Mr. Cooper?
Aye.
Ms. Iyer?
Aye.
Okay.
Okay. First of all, it seems like the audio is impeccable tonight, so that's great. Kudos to the tech team. Good job. Just a celebration that I have is that I wanted to recognize Mr. Mike Snyder. Mr. Mike Snyder was recognized as the Franklin B. Walter Outstanding Educator Award recipient, which is a very prestigious award, and we're really proud of him for receiving that. And this evening, I guess I just wanted to go right into my report. The first thing that I wanted to touch base on is just a call that we had earlier today, and it revolves around impacts to public school funding and what those impacts could mean for Findlay City Schools. Earlier today, several members of our team participated in an alarming video call concerning the proposed state budget in collaboration with the leading professional associations for superintendents, treasurers, and school boards. The Ohio School Boards Association, the Buckeye Association of School Administrators, and the Ohio Association of School Business Officials, along with education policy expert Dr. Howard Fleeter. House Bill 335, which is a provision of House Bill 96, is a sweeping property tax reform bill that removes the ability to levy inside millage and combines elements from several prior proposals. It would fundamentally change how property taxes are levied, limited, and allocated in the state of Ohio, with devastating implications for public school districts. This would result in an immediate $1.9 billion in revenue loss to schools across the state. Perhaps most importantly, this proposal has no plan to replace the revenues that would be lost to local municipalities and school districts across the state. So on this call earlier today, the descriptions of this proposed budget reflect the negative impact of the proposal, and I just also want to preface it with I've never been on a call where things like this were stated. Potentially the worst budget bill we've seen in years or ever. The most consequential legislation to public schools in Ohio in 50 years, cataclysmic to public schools, and exactly backwards of what needs to be done. Those statements were not made lightly by the experts that were on the call. So, sharing all that, what could this mean for us? What might this mean for Findlay City Schools? The cuts that Findlay City Schools would experience from this proposed state budget make our current reductions seem minuscule. As proposed, if our inside millage collection disappears, FCS would stand to lose about $6 million per year, which is about 10% of our total operating budget. This news about House Bill 335 is deeply disappointing from the state because it comes on the heels of our own community stepping up and approving a local 1% earned income tax to support and stabilize our budget. This one bill, if adopted, could completely disrupt what voters locally just supported and that we've all been celebrating and so proud of our community for stepping up for our kids and our schools. In other words, we've been telling Findlay voters for months that if we passed our levy, our goal was to avoid going back on the ballot for operating money for years, for as long as possible. House Bill 335 could make that almost impossible. The state budget bill, House Bill 96, in its current version, does not further the Fair School funding formula, but over time will cut FCS. In short, since we passed in May, the May levy, the federal budget has also posed a real threat to our district. We have just learned recently that FCS faces an estimated 50% reduction in federal funding, resulting in an additional loss of $1.8 million, impacting our title programs and other federally supported elements to our district. So let me reiterate, the House Bill 335 provision of the state budget is poised to impact next year's school budget with a June 30th deadline. We're only about, Mrs. Harrington, 15 days away.
Correct.
14 days away. Making this a critical moment, a critical time to help protect voter-approved revenue that our local voters just did. We are in truly unique times. The seasoned leaders that were on the call today, representing these state organizations, along with Dr. Fleeter, have never seen legislation proposed like House Bill 335 at the last minute without deep thought and consideration behind it. It matters greatly that our community is aware of the negative impact of these state and federal proposals on our local community. We did our job as a local community, and we need the state to do its job. As many on this board have long advocated for, please continue to fairly and equitably fund our public schools through the bipartisan fair school funding formula. Thank you for letting me make that statement. Also in my report, just want to remind the board that we are going to need the special meeting on June 30th. So please mark your calendars. I believe we need to get a time set for that, but as Mrs. Harrington and I were talking, I think we would propose to do it at the time of a regular board meeting to get us as late in the day as possible within reason. Hopefully we will have answers on the state budget by then from not only our legislature, but, from the governor. And also by then, if I could, I just need a direction from the board on as I talked about at the last board meeting, just the activity fees. Which direction do we want to go with the activity fee proposal for the extracurriculars? I would like that guidance at the June 30th meeting. So that's all I have, Mr. Cooper.
All right. Treasurer.
Any announcements, or do I do my donations now?
Donations.
So, I'm sorry, guys, been a rough, long day. So at this point in time, I would like to thank the following for donations. In case you can't see the screen at home, I'll read them for you. The University of Findlay Mazza Museum, AMC Findlay, Maria Gauer, Douglas and Jeanette Strube. And we had a grant from the Adamus HHCP Prevention and Wellness. And again, thank you so much, and with great gratitude, because our children really benefit from all these donations. It's just wonderful every week. That's it.
All right. Any committee reports?
Obviously, as always, Finance Committee will have a brief from Mrs. Harrington towards the end of the meeting. Operations and facilities.
Oh, wait, back up. I have
sorry.
to do board reports and celebrations.
Oh, no problem.
Skipped right over it.
I just do what I'm told. Yeah, you can jump into
Any board celebrations?
I would like to celebrate the summer camps. My backyard was filled with a bunch of multicolored T-shirts last week in and out of Donnell Middle School, and that's when I know that there's a really fun camp going on there. So looked like they were having a great time, and it brought back a lot of happy memories from my kids' childhood. Also wanted to celebrate our alumnus, Ben Best and Andrew Steckschulte, who were swinging bats with the Flag City Sluggers. Saw them on their opening night, and it was really great to see them playing ball in our Flag City Sluggers.
Any other?
None for me.
No? All right, now you can do committee reports. Sorry about that.
Wanted to let the board know, and then with Mr. Doolittle's assistance, just a quick update on the Millstream construction project. It is still on time and on budget. Mr. Doolittle took me through there a week ago. I think we walked through, and the spaces are amazing. They are going to be wrapping things up, and I believe is it by July 21st or 22nd, That's the final punch list walkthrough, right? Okay. Which means all of the specs on the facility itself need to check out. And then there will be a flurry of deliveries coming up soon with equipment and furniture so that they are ready to open on the first day of school.
That's correct.
Anything else did I miss anything else on the Millstream update?
Other than the items that are being completed at this time with painting and overhead work. They did a really cool roofing project up there. They formed each panel individually, which ended up being like 97 foot long off of a truck. There's a video that we put with the documents for future. No, it's been a great project overall, and we plan on returning for the punch list that day to help out with that. So we'll should be opening on time with the brand new engineering and advanced manufacturing line. Pretty exciting.
And just as I think that we've tried to remind our community that the entire compact, all the participating districts, that this was grant funded through the grants that Mrs. Hamlin put together and earned for Millstream. And I don't want to overpromise this, but Garmin Miller said that we've asked them to maybe put together some video using some drone, like through the building, on top of the building, just so we can get some of that captured for posterity, and then we'd like to show that to the board. But anytime you'd like to walk through, just let us know. Personnel and HR committee met. Obviously, I think that we're going to be talking about some things in executive session this evening, but what you'll see later in the meeting are some pretty straightforward retirements, resignations. We are hiring critical positions, just as we've reiterated over the last several meetings. Did I miss anything there? Okay. Policy, you'll have some first and some second reads this evening. And then Teaching and Learning Committee, we touched base on summer work is happening and prep for next year is happening. Mrs. Abbott, was there anything there to highlight? No, we're getting the work done. So, that's it.
All right. I won't skip this. Anybody here for public participation?
I don't believe we had any sign up.
All right, moving on to draft minutes. Can I get a motion to approve the draft minutes from the regular meeting on May 19th, 2025?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Ms. Harrington?
Mr. Aldridge?
Aye.
Ms. Iyer?
Aye.
Mrs. Russell?
Aye.
Dr. Stephen O. Wilson?
Aye.
Mr. Cooper?
Aye. All right, can I get a motion to approve the Board of Education consent items?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
There's a lot here, and obviously, hopefully you've had time to dive into a lot of this. The only one that I really wanted to highlight was in the student handbooks, the cell phone policy at FHS will align with what the middle schools has been for years, and which is in alignment with the law. That cell phones will not be able to be used at Findlay High School next year. Students will be asked to place those in their lockers. And then also what we did recently was making sure that the consequences or the way that those things are handled are consistent from 6th grade through 12th grade. We will also make sure, really this policy has to carry across the whole district. But that one was a little bit of an update from the first read and was requested, rightfully so, and enhanced by tonight's meeting.
I guess my only question is, why aren't we going to the elementary school handbooks as well? Do our elementary kids not use cell phones? I think they do.
Yeah, we can, obviously we can have it in there, and really usually the secondary handbooks and the code of conduct specifically
Yeah.
drives the code of conduct for the whole district. Yeah. So we can certainly update that throughout, because I think the law did not carve out just high school, just middle school. It was all schools.
It was all school.
Yeah.
Yep.
Any other discussion? Ms. Harrington?
Ms. Iyer?
Aye.
Mr. Aldridge?
Aye.
Mrs. Russell?
Aye.
Dr. Stephen L. Wilson?
Aye.
Mr. Cooper?
Aye. Can I get moving on to Assistant Superintendent of Personnel and HR consent items, can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Do you have anything on that?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I'd like to just highlight Mr. Doolittle with his time with Findlay City Schools and his service here. Really appreciate all the work that you've done, and truly thank you for everything that you've committed to Findlay City Schools, and you will be missed.
Thanks, Dennis, for everything. I know we work close together on a lot of things, specifically safety, so I truly do appreciate that. Anybody else?
I just don't want the board to accept his resignation in so I didn't want to comment on it at all, really. So I'm pretending it's not happening.
Ms. Harrington?
Dr. Stephen L. Wilson?
Aye.
Mrs. Russell?
Aye.
Mr. Aldridge?
I
Mr. Cooper?
Aye.
Ms. Iyer?
Aye.
I was trying to change it up a little bit.
Moving on to Assistant Superintendent of Teaching and Learning consent items. Can I get a
So-
motion to approve?
so moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
The only highlight on this one is just to continue to reiterate that the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce stipends are reimbursed by the state. Is that for the science, the training? Yeah. I am still going through my science of reading training, and I still have 2 modules to go. I don't get reimbursed for this or paid, so, but it's so enjoyable. I love going through it again. It's amazing. No, that's all I had on that one.
All right, any other discussion? All right, Ms. Harrington?
Mr. Aldridge?
Aye.
Ms. Iyer?
Aye.
Mr. Cooper?
Aye.
Mrs. Russell?
Aye.
Dr. Stephen L. Wilson?
Aye.
Treasurer
Okay.
CFO items.
Okay, so we're gonna start with the general fund report. We have, it's a little small, but if you'd like a larger copy, you can always come and pick one up in my office. So right now, we are getting close to the end of the year, but our May came in about right where we thought. I think our payroll's gonna come in right around 42.5 when we get through June here. We have one more payroll. We had our first payroll in June already. So the line-by-line items we are watching closely that we're concerned about is obviously our fringe benefit line. It's up quite a bit. We still have a couple of things we're reviewing with UMR and some companies to make sure we're right on track. I think it might be a little higher, though. In purchase services, we're reviewing, I had my staff today start going through, I think we had like 46 outstanding open POs, and they're actually reviewing them and calling vendors, trying to get us closer to the end. So on the June 30th meeting, I should have a really close, we ought to be darn close to what we're gonna end with. So I look forward to having that information for you. Next. Well, sorry, Kelly. So this report, we're doing a little bit different. It's still the balance of fund, and they're both available on our website. But we did take some suggestions from folks about saying, which one's the general fund bucket, which one's the PEI bucket, and which is the bond. And I think it's a great idea. We are also taking each line and putting a little short definition beside them. We were taking some suggestions from people because we tried a couple, and they were really, we take constructive criticism very serious because we want to make sure that people, and be very transparent so that they understand what that line item means. I think people we talk so much about the general fund because it's our largest fund, and that's how we, run our business or school, and, it's like a business. But when we actually, the other funds, we do maintain also and watch them too. So I don't think we don't talk about them very much, but on this report, if anything pops out at you, please feel free to email me and ask me any questions. We provided this longer one, and then the next one would be I don't think we need to pull it up. Mrs. Cheney, we're okay. We don't need to pull it up. So this one's okay. So in our regular meeting that we have, it's a superintendent committee. It's just a committee that Dr. Hatton puts together. And we also went over our cash reconciliation, kind of a package that we're kind of doing each month. We are waiting on appropriations and amended certificate for the June 30. We had a few account budget and transfers. I am asking for approval in this information tonight to approve temporary appropriations and go ahead and get started on next year's budget at 80% of this year's ending, because it really, it will be much less than that, but again, we have to prove something. So I always like to start with the 80%, and then we get, I want to have the budgets at the July meeting this year so that the board has a better idea right from the start. And as we know, the general fund will be by the function and will be a little bit bigger breakdown for people. We're getting a little bit more detail, which I think is helpful for the Board of Education to make decisions. So the property, fleet, and liability insurance information is due. We met with several people, and we're going with Liberty Mutual. It's up quite a bit, close to 80,000, because this was just, some, claims here and there, different things happen. We had a building blow away, and, well, sort of, Dennis, remember. So we just had some strange things happen that caused that, but it'll go down, I think, in another year. So we did go over reviewing some hires, transfers, and reductions, and we are also asking to approve our student activity budget books that Andrea Barker put together and did a fantastic job. I have a copy here. If anybody would like a copy, I can get you one. I didn't make all those copies. And so I'm asking for approval for that, and then I have some comments, but do you want to do a roll call for
Yeah, we'll need a motion to
motion
approve
first? Okay.
Yep.
And then we can have Susan add some stuff.
Yeah.
So,
So
do we-
moved.
Susan, okay.
Second?
Second. Discussion. I think it's important to point out, that we're going to be hitting a very low point here in our financials with the delay in the receipt of the 1% earned income tax, which we knew from the beginning. There's going to be an 18-month delay. We start receiving a very small portion in April of next year, but it's not fully received for 18 months. We're going to hit below 10%. Our cash balance will be below 10% of our general fund. So it's important to make sure that everybody across the board knows that we are not business, the levy passed, and we're very grateful. We're not business as usual. We have to stay belt-tightened as far as we can go for at least the next probably 2 school years in order to make our way through this low point in our financial budget before we start realizing some of that. And that assumes that the things that Dr. Hatton talked about that are going on at the state and federal level don't impact that. So our original plan was that we would be going through a very low period. We're hoping that we just have the low period we planned on and not one that's made worse by activities from the state and federal government. But it is important for everybody to realize we have to stay very, very fiscally conscious for this school year and probably next school year in order to make it through this period of time.
Well said. So then, my last comment. One thing that I do want to thank the Ohio lawmakers. I do think they work hard, and I do think they're putting in a lot of hours away from their families and stuff. And we do appreciate it as school people and community members. We understand that. We know it's a labor-intensive process, and we really do appreciate it. But I reiterate what Dr. Hatton said. The lawmakers, they're debating some changes to school funding and property tax laws that could deeply impact our schools and our children, more importantly. So, we need to stay on top of it. We need to be kept aware. That's why we all watch this video or webinar today. Anything that you can find that you can read about or any questions that you have, I really highly recommend that you reach out to us and ask us anything. The federal government was kind of a little bit of a shock, well, a lot of a shock, when they said, well, we're going to give you half, and we still don't, normally by now we have that drop. they give you your drop of what you're getting for your federal money for the next year, which I do, again, on this report, down at the bottom, it's all the grants that start with a 5. So it equates to about $3.2 million that most of it is used to pay people. So if they're gonna cut half of that, we'll have to absorb that somewhere else because the children are still gonna come. They're gonna come to school every day and want a teacher, and so, and staff, and, you know, they're gonna want to, we still have people. So we have to, you know, be mindful of that. I don't know when that was kind of like, surprise, we're gonna take your money, or not give you money. I guess they didn't take it, they just didn't give it yet. And I do think that is a bit unusual to get that information so late. I mean, that was kind of late. I mean, they usually give you the money in end of April, beginning of May, and you can start planning. But we still don't have the information, other than that they're gonna cut it in half. They'll start with half. So at this time, I'm asking for approval for all that information.
Is there any more discussion?
Oh, sorry. Okay. Mrs. Russell?
Aye.
Ms. Iyer?
Aye.
Mr. Cooper?
Aye.
Mr. Aldridge?
Aye.
Dr. Stephen O. Wilson?
Aye.
All right. At this time, I need a motion to enter into executive session for the purpose of discussing the employment, dismissal, and compensation of employees and sale or purchase of property.
So moved.
Second?
Oops, go ahead.
Okay, Mrs. Russell?
Aye.
Mr. Aldridge?
Aye.
Mr. Cooper?
Aye.
Ms. Iyer?
Aye.
Dr. Stephen O. Wilson?
Aye.
Do you guys think there'll be any business after this?
What?
No business after this, right?
No business